What's up, guys? Connor OHanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. And today we have a big story. We have the Republicans getting their revenge, or so they think. And they're going to try and impeach President Biden for what we don't know, for the crimes they don't know. Will they actually impeach him? Probably not. But we will get to all of that. Then we will be talking about Republicans, mostly on the local level here. And I'm going to subvert expectations because I'm sure some people think I'm going to talk about something that I'm not going to talk about. But weaponizing government, specifically looking at Brian Fitzpatrick and his ties. We'll roll this all in together with the impeachment, of course, and then we will talk about school board and how public meetings are being turned into campaigning events, which it's not what they're supposed to be. Believe it or not, that is not what they're supposed to be. And then we will talk about Project 2025. And the reason why we're going to talk about Project 2025 is because from the Discord server, let me make sure I get who it was, in the show suggestions, Mashi, which I don't know who that is actually in real life, so that's unique, asked if we could cover Project 2025. So I know a little bit about 2025, but I pulled up the actual website separate from like what I know, and we'll take a little dive into what they believe and see what it is. Preemptively, I'll say that all of that and more on tonight's Greater Society podcast. Preemptively, I'm going to say I am pretty foggy in my brain today. I had a pretty weird and rough migraine yesterday that has seemingly leaked into today. I'm testing myself for COVID, and I am negative so far, but just so we are all aware, if I'm a little bit less sharp. I mean, of course, you probably don't think I'm that sharp to begin with, but I appreciate you being here already. I didn't get the newest booster yet because it's not available here yet, but I will get it. So, just so we get that out of the way. Now, let us go to the big story first. Oh, sorry, click the account, not the tweet. Okay, or the X. Starting off today, hot. We're coming in. The 4-time indicted, civilly liable rapist, 2 times impeached former president, Donald Trump, is pressuring through the use of certain certain Congress people. I'm used to talking about committee people, like Matt Gaetz, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Lauren Boebert, to pressure Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy to impeach President Biden. We will listen to Kevin McCarthy here in a second, talking about why he believes that there should be an inquiry, which is different than an impeachment trial, I will probably say that 1,000 times, an inquiry into an impeachment trial because Kevin McCarthy is the speaker by one or two votes. If you remember back into, what was it, in January of this year, where he was elected Speaker of the House. So those same radical right-wing Republicans are holding Kevin McCarthy hostage. And yes, Lindsay, I will bring that up a number of times as well. Trial does also need facts. But here is Speaker of the House, best buddy of our congressman here in Pennsylvania's 1st Congressional District, Brian Fitzpatrick. Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, after the pressure from the 4 times indicted, twice impeached Donald Trump, this is where we find ourselves today.
These serious allegations, it appears that the president's family has been offered special treatment by Biden's own administration. Treatment that not otherwise would have received if they were not related to the president. These are allegations of abuse.
I'm going to pause it right there. First of all, right, I'm going to probably pause this a few more times, but let's talk about this in the abstract for a second. 1, do political figures and their families receive special benefits, whether we like it or not? Remember, Will, you probably don't agree with me on this, but you will agree that there is a 2-tier justice system. There is a 2-tier justice system in this country, but it is not, and I will emphasize this, it is not Democrats and Republicans. It is the rich and powerful and the rest of us. That is a 2-tier justice system. Now, the allegations that Kevin McCarthy just said, that people within the Biden administration or his family are receiving special privileges from the administration, we need to see evidence and support of this. People say, well, Biden made more money in 2017, 2018, 2019. Well, yeah, because he's the president now. He has a president's salary. Versus then, when he was a private citizen, making money off of his investments, his pensions, book sales between him and Jill Biden. Now, if we want to talk about Hunter Biden, which, by the way, is not the president, believe it or not, Hunter Biden is not receiving special privileges for the charges that he has with regards to tax evasion, because remember, he is getting indicted for these things, tax evasion and a gun charge that the average person would have just been probably like a small slap on the wrist. But to make a point out of punishing Hunter Biden, which, okay, I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem with you going after Hunter Biden, because guess what? Hunter Biden is not the president. And if Joe Biden broke the law, if Joe Biden did like half of the things that you guys are about to throw in the chat, I'd probably be right there with you. But the thing is, there is absolutely zero evidence that Joe Biden broke the law. You could even argue, and I'll give this to you, you could even argue that they could have looked into Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, because the Clinton Foundation did have some shady dealings. But guess what? They did. They did investigations into these things. Now, you can say, oh, it's not as good, it's not as thorough, and whatever. We can agree. Maybe they should have gone further into it. Maybe there should have been further digging. But with regards to what we have in front of us right now, what special privileges? Hunter Biden had a plea deal that then got torn up. Now, is that because his deal is going to get better? I don't think so. The plea deal was basically like, oh, here's a slap on the wrist. It was just like, we have to arrest you because we just arrested Donald Trump 4 times. I love that not all the folks in the chat that are going to argue with me about this won't even acknowledge the fact that Trump, and then, all right, I won't even keep comparing them. But Trump has been indicted 4 times on four different major crimes, and he's been found liable civilly for rape. Not amongst being impeached twice for trying to, 1, lead an insurrection, and 2, make a phone call to get dirt on the person he's running against and threatening to withhold aid to the country. But we want to talk about Burisma. I think Biden tried to get that prosecutor fired because they were looking into Burisma, but Hunter Biden was on the board. In fact, the facts of the matter are that the prosecutor that was fired wasn't going after Burisma enough. That is why they were pressured to fire them, and that is the exact opposite it is the exact opposite of working in the benefit of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. It is specifically going after the interests of the United States. That is a fact. And who cares he's not president anymore? I care because he's running for president right now. If he wasn't running for president, okay, maybe he could just go be a private citizen and lie about winning golf tournaments. But that is not the case right now. That guy is, look, Will, I know you like Vivek. He is curb stomping Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek's a joke compared to Donald Trump in this primary. Now, if he was a real contender, okay, we could have that discussion. He's not. Little Tiny D, Ronnie the Sanctimonious, he's falling apart. Donald Trump's your guy. I'm sorry. You guys picked him. I'm sorry.
Abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption. And they warrant further investigation by the House of Representatives. That's why today I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President
An impeachment inquiry, not an impeachment trial.
Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full.
This logical next step is because I have a sword of Damocles hanging above my neck as a Speaker of the House, because one person could recall my speakership. One Republican could recall my speakership, and he loses it. And he has to come begging, pleading, Democrats, please support me. Please support me. I need to be the Speaker. Kevin McCarthy's entire political career is contingent upon this decision.
Power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. That's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the President would want to answer these questions and allegations as well. This effort will be led by Chairman James Comer at the Committee on Oversight.
James Comer is a quack.
In coordination with Chairman Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan, who didn't go after he's worse than Joe Paterno. Jim Jordan is worse than Joe Paterno with regards to protecting the wrestlers at Ohio State.
For Judiciary Committee, and Chairman Jason Smith.
Jason Smith, I have no idea who he is, to be honest with you.
Now, I do not make this decision lightly.
No, we know you didn't.
And regardless of your party or who you voted for, these facts should concern all Americans.
So, there we have it. The facts should concern all Americans. Except the fact is that there's no evidence. There is no witness. Because the witness that they said that they have, nobody's talked to the witness in 3 years. The witness that claimed that there was a tape, they don't have the tape. They haven't heard the tape. There's no evidence that the tape is legit or exists. They don't have it. They won't go to get the tape from the potential witness. There is no evidence. Chris and Will, you guys are more than welcome to jump into the Discord server. I will provide you the link right now. You can hop in and we can have a conversation. If that's what you want to do. I will provide the link right now. You can join right there. Here we have, let's see. We'll go to this. In the Hill, Or actually, I want to save this before I transfer into the stuff on Fitzpatrick himself. But we will come back to that in a second. Here is Democratic Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, who is, and I'm waiting for you guys to hop in the Discord. Here is Democratic Senator John Fetterman coming in to talk about the impeachment.
I ask you about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment, or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh, it's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it. Oh no, oh no.
Oh God, no. That's exactly the reaction that this deserves. Go ahead. Go do it. Go do it. Have fun. Except the fact is that the people that want to claim that they're fiscal conservatives, they care about the deficit, they care about our tax dollars, they care about this, that, and the other thing. They are burning our tax dollars. They are wasting our time. They are not proposing any sort of real legislation. You know what? I bet me, Mickey, Lindsay, Chris, Will, every single person in the chat could probably agree that right now, if we really wanted to, we could come up with comprehensive immigration reform as a major priority, and we could probably come to some sort of legislative agenda, all of us. We might not agree on everything, we probably wouldn't, but we could come to some agreement. Now, that's what the government should be doing. There is a Texas governor putting barbed wire in rivers, and that has literally killed people. But yet, we can't even have one bill that's passed to protect migrants, but also protect our border. We can do both. We can have a sovereign nation, but also protect migrant rights. There is a way to do this, but nobody actually cares. And no, I am not a socialist. I mean, this is what's so funny, is that I'm not even a socialist, right? These are super easy compromises to be had. But some folks don't want to come to the table. They don't want to have compromise. They don't want to have legitimate conversation. They don't want to come in good faith. That's the God's honest truth, right? If we wanted to say we should look into Joe Biden, okay, for what? You know who released their tax return? Joe Biden. Joe Biden. You know who took multiple lawsuits, investigations from the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then ultimately the Supreme Court to make him release his tax returns? Donald J. Trump. What corruption? What corruption? Give me something to chew on at least. Give me something to research. Give me something to debunk. Give me something. Not just corruption. Corruption. That's what Jair Bolsonaro ran against freaking Lula da Silva on. Corruption. And then it was found that it was bogus charges. He got out of jail, and then he beat him in an election. Like, this is... My friends. This is bogus. Here we have... let's go. I have all these things out of order. Okay. Here we have Ken Buck, who's a Republican representative, pushing back against Marjorie Taylor Greene and the radical right Republicans that are trying to go after Joe Biden. And before I play this, let me read this chat just so I make sure. In the chat, it says, Hunter texts his daughter saying, I won't make you pay half of my bills like I do for Pop. 10% to the big guy. First of all, that is First of all, if you look into the specifics of some of those text messages and emails, right? They're at a time when they were talking about Joe Biden's other son, Beau, dying. And that is why you see some of these interactions like that. The second thing is that Joe Biden wasn't president at the time of any of those things. Even if I granted you the fact that he was vice president with the certain things with Burisma, he was actively working, one, in the interest of the United States, and two, against his own son's financial interests because he was going after a prosecutor that was not prosecuting Burisma. That is the facts. That is the facts. And yes, 20 times during calls, and then, my friend, if there is evidence of a witness or any of these people that are willing to actually testify and prove corruption, prove any of these things, I'm all here for it. I am not like a big Biden shill. I was a huge Bernie guy in 2016. I was a Bernie guy in 2020. And people could say, whoa, you wouldn't criticize Jane Sanders for her. No, I don't care. Hold power to account, but you cannot just make stuff up and say corruption, corruption, corruption. That's not how this works. You have to have proof and evidence. And you know why they don't have proof and evidence? Because they're not doing an impeachment trial. Because if they had to go to the trial, they don't have the votes because there is no evidence. If you had evidence, you would impeach him. And if there was enough evidence, the Senate would convict him if they weren't political hacks. But you have to prove. There is a certain barrier of proof. And also, let's remember, to impeach a president, there has to be high crimes and misdemeanors. This is the Constitution. But you guys want to throw the Constitution away because it's just a scrap of paper to you. High crimes and misdemeanors doesn't mean, oh, there's a couple of phone calls when he wasn't president that may have made him money. Why the hell don't you care about the fact that Jared Kushner made $1 billion, not million, billion with a B, dollars after working directly in the White House with Ivanka, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr.? They all worked in the White House using their power to build influence and then get $1 billion from Saudi Arabia. That's a fact. Can we agree that we should investigate them? Or no, did Jared Kushner solve the Middle East? All of them. Hold on. Chris, no, this is not about whataboutism. Hold them all to account. But there has to be evidence. You can't just say, hold Joe Biden accountable for things that he didn't do, or there's no evidence that he did. If you want to have a legitimate conversation and prove things, there's this thing called evidence. And the witnesses that the Republicans, specifically James Comer, who is the chairman of this committee now, he has said on air, I could probably pull it up. I probably have it here somewhere. He doesn't even know, they don't even know where the witness is. They don't have any sort of eyewitness beyond just saying, well, the guy exists. Well, yeah, maybe he does exist. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. We don't even know who he is. Let me see if I can find it. I probably can if I just scroll back far enough. I had it saved at one point. The guy is lying through his teeth. They're just utilizing this as a political stunt to build up their own agenda, to make themselves look good, and try to make sure that Kevin McCarthy can appease his base like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and hold his position as the Speaker of the House. But otherwise, he is in trouble. I don't know if I have it saved here. That would be super clutch if I did, but I don't know if I do. Well, yeah, no, I don't have it saved here. I'd have to go spend some time finding it. But besides the point. Here's a Republican, not a Democrat. Here's a Republican pushing back on this nonsense.
Teaching law school.
Hold on. I'm sorry. like Russia with Trump. Like, you have to understand, the fact is that I'm going to push back on you with talking about Trump when you are using Trump mannerisms, when you're using Trump rhetoric, when you are using the literal words that he says in pushing back against what he says is nonsense. Russia, although there was not proof that he collaborated directly with the Russians to steal the election, because remember, that's not what Democrats say. We didn't say he stole the election. There is, and every single the FBI, the CIA, every single intelligence agency in the entire country, although you probably think that the Democrats run it, even though a Democrat has never, in the history of its existence, led the FBI, you probably believe that the FBI, the CIA, and all of them are in cahoots, and they, of course they're going to say that because they just wanted Hillary Clinton to win. Because she was going to start more wars or something. Russia did interfere in the 2016 election. Did it make the difference in why Trump became president? We don't know. It's inconclusive. Did he steal the election? No. But there's difference between interference and a stolen election. There's very big difference. No, Hillary didn't say he stole the election. She said that he's an illegitimate president, which he was an illegitimate president. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't right. He didn't win the election, rightfully so. You can be illegitimate in different ways. It's not to say he stole the election. I don't even watch MSNBC, my friend. I promise you that. Here is Ken, what is his name? Ken Burns, right? No, Ken Buck, not Ken Burns. Ken Burns is the documentary. Ken Buck, who's a Republican, my friends, talking about this bullshit.
I learned and taught certain constitutional principles. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was teaching CrossFit, she learned a whole different set of values, evidently, because my idea of what this country should be like is based on the Constitution.
I'm straight.
And she sees the world.
Will and Chris, you guys might want to take some notes here. This is a Republican. Your guy.
Differently. She's criticized me for, voting to certify the election in 2020. The Constitution says Congress shall count the votes. It doesn't say Congress may overturn an election result. It doesn't say Congress can do whatever the heck it wants with this election. Shall count the votes. That's what the Constitution says. In her CrossFit class, maybe they didn't cover that. And the Constitution also says that, the impeachment of a president shall be based on treason, high crimes, misdemeanors. It doesn't say it's a political exercise,
right?
And we hope that it does the right thing.
Wow.
And so I get tired of people. One of the beauties of Congress is you bring 435 people together from different backgrounds, and you try to reach a consensus on issues. When you've got people who care more about their social media accounts than they do about the Constitution, we have a real problem in Congress.
Wow. Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. There you have a Republican representative pointing out that maybe we should put the Constitution first. That's a goalpost shift if I ever seen one. Will says, who cares? Biden won't be president in 2024 one way or another. I guess we'll see. And yes, Lindsay points out, you were unable to prove this last week when you were in chat, and you were talking about masking not working. Sorry, my friend. I pulled up on the spot. I pulled up a study that proves that N95 masks and KN95 masks are effective. I mean, I didn't have to prepare. I'm live on the air. You can see what I'm doing. I'm not pulling any magic tricks. I'm here. I'm live. Here we have what I was lining up. The GOP, quote, moderates, line up behind McCarthy opening Biden impeachment inquiry. This includes our very own so-called moderate, Brian Fitzpatrick. I don't even know if he's I wonder if he's quoted in this. Nope, he's not quoted in this, but Brian Fitzpatrick is a stooge for Kevin McCarthy. So here you have so-called moderates. So if the moderates are signing on, I'm telling you that it is a political stunt, because if you actually dug into the real trial, you know that they wouldn't have the votes. You know that there wouldn't be evidence. I mean, just look at these. I think there's corruption there, but to do an inquiry, you should have some kind of direct evidence towards the president. I think that we're close, so I'm not opposed to never doing it, but I just think we should set a high bar. That's Republican from Nebraska. Like, this guy, Anthony Esposito in New York, a first-term congressman. You know why? Because he has to embrace the Trumpism in order to get reelected. This is what is necessary. You guys cannot possibly believe that somebody is a moderate and also back what's going on here. This is not a fact. It's completely the antithesis of being a moderate. Let's talk about a so-called moderate real quick. Before we talk about more about Brian Fitzpatrick, let's talk about Senator Mitt Romney. Now, this comes as a little bit of a surprise today, in my opinion. But here is Mitt Romney announcing the fact that he is not going to be running again.
Expectations. I enjoy my work in the Senate a good deal. The last few years have been particularly productive, as I was able to help lead and negotiate the bipartisan infrastructure law, a comprehensive China strategy process, religious liberty protections, a compromised gun safety law, the Electoral Count Act.
My friend, Mickey, you're not a centrist. Trust me, you're not a centrist. Center between the two parties that exist right now would make you a right-winger. That's not what I believe you are. I believe you're a liberal, and you might disagree with some of the things that I espouse, but I believe in you.
Reform and emergency COVID relief funding. I was also able to help secure key Utah priorities, including funding for Hill Air Force Base and its program to modernize our nuclear deterrent, as well as funding for wildfire prevention, water infrastructure, rural broadband, removal of uranium tailings from Moab, expansion and restoration of our highway and transit infrastructure, and federal studies to save the Great Salt Lake. I've spent my last 25 years in public service of one kind or another. At the end of another term, I'd be in my mid-80s. Frankly, it's time for a new generation of leaders. They're the ones that need to make the decisions that will shape the world they will be living in.
Damn straight.
Now, we face critical challenges: mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians of Russia and China.
Interesting that Mitt Romney, who was the 2012 candidate for the Republican nomination, now seems like the reasonable guy. Same thing with John McCain, both of which I have significant disagreements with. But the fact that Mitt Romney can acknowledge the fact that climate change, which some of you guys out there commented on my previous clip that came out yesterday about climate change, said that it can't exist because there's cold weather. Can't exist because there's cold weather. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that global temperatures are rising, and when it's cold, it's more harsh. You can't say that. But Mitt Romney can say it. Because, he's just a senator.
Neither President Biden nor former President Trump are leading their party to confront those issues. On deficits and debt, both men refuse to address entitlements, even though they know that this represents 2/3 of federal spending. Donald Trump calls global warming a hoax, and President Biden offers feel-good solutions that make no difference to the global climate. On China, President Biden underinvests in the military, and President Trump underinvests in our alliances.
Now, I again obviously disagree with what he just said here. But at least we can talk about the policies here.
Political motivations too often impede the solutions that these challenges demand. The next generation of leaders must take America to the next stage of global leadership. While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities. I look forward to working with you and with folks across our state and nation in that endeavor. It really is a profound honor to serve Utah and the country, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
Interesting. So I'm curious, for the state of Utah, what comes next? Utah is a bit interesting. You have to remember that in, I believe, 2016, Evan McMullin, I believe his name was, ran against President Trump, well, before he was president, and picked off like a good chunk of change out of that state. He obviously didn't win the state, but there was a battle for it. I'm curious who the senator following Mitt Romney is. If it's a Trump-ish person, because let's be honest, it's going to be a Republican, but if it's a Trump-ish person, not going to be good. If it's more in the Mitt Romney, but a younger person, I mean, like, look, again, I'll say this 1,000 times over. I have problems with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney works very closely with Kyrsten Sinema, who I definitely have problems with, especially because she was a Democrat. But if the Trump lane comes and fills this void, we're in trouble. If a Mitt Romney Jr. basically comes in and fills this, at least it is somebody who we can pass something like the CHIPS Act, which is going to bring jobs to America, manufacturing jobs to America. It will reduce the necessary ties with China, which I would assume that many people that maybe are trying to argue with me want to rely less upon. It would reduce a trade deficit. I mean, all these things, but that was a Democratic bill. I'm not 100% sure if Mitt Romney even voted for it, but at least there was, I am hopeful that if I looked it up, it's possible. Yes, Romney Care, I don't love it. I don't like Obamacare, but Obamacare is Romney Care just to the whole country, and until Trump removed the individual mandate, which reduced the funding for it, which makes it more expensive, and the cycle goes on and on. But Romney Care, of course, being the original plan that Obama used for Obamacare, but Republicans don't want to look at that either. Same way that they don't want to acknowledge the fact that Ronald Reagan let millions of migrants stay in the country and gave them amnesty. But, oh, can't do that. Oh, yeah. Before we move on to Brian Fitzpatrick, which I had to pull up this image. See if it works. I don't know why it's not wanting to. There we go. Okay. It's going to be not centered for some reason, but you guys will have to bear with me. Will asks, Connor, can you identify me like you did Mickey? Is that how socialism works? Yeah, that's exactly how socialism works. Yeah. I can actually read minds. That's It's actually a superpower that I have. Believe it or not. I can see you looking at your computer screen or your phone right now. And I can telekinetically connect with you through the Matrix. Because you have yet to unplug from the Matrix, my friend. Yes, I do want to redistribute wealth. Yes. You don't have to be a socialist to believe in redistribution of wealth. This would be fun, man. You have the option. I sent you the link. You guys are more than welcome to jump in the Discord. And yes, I am laughing at my own jokes. Oh, yeah. Sorry for those just listening. You guys, if you guys are listening, this is a great time to come onto YouTube, hit subscribe button, and check out what we have on YouTube going on. Here we have Brian Fitzpatrick's. I'm going to see if I can zoom in even more here. Maybe not. That's a little too much. Okay. Here we have Brian Fitzpatrick sending from his, not his campaign, his official Congress of the United States House of Representatives office, Problem Solvers Caucus, co-chairman. But you notice that this is blocked out because this is a picture from online. But I didn't get this letter. Maybe some of you didn't get this letter if you live in the district. Now, I'll read some of this stuff, and then I'll tell you why it's important that we didn't get this letter. 1, building the wall and securing our border. These are things that Brian Fitzpatrick supports. 2, securing our elections and requiring voter ID. Of course, not providing free voter IDs for everybody that needs them, because not everyone has a driver's license, and that's why we need voter IDs that are free for everybody, because if we did that, again, we could come to a compromise. We could say, if you want to have voter ID, there's a way to do it. And this is not the way that you guys want to do it. You guys just want to say voter ID because you want to disenfranchise people from voting because they're more likely to vote for Democrats. Okay. Number 3, balancing our budget, cutting inflation, and reducing government spending. Number 1, balancing our budget. We haven't had a balanced budget since the 90s. Balanced budget right now would completely cripple our economy. Everybody in here should know that, of course. You don't have to be a modern monetary theorist to understand that deficit spending, for the most part, for the federal government that controls the monetary supply, is actually a good thing. Number 2, cutting inflation. Inflation has been going down consistently now under Biden for the last year and a half. Is it down to where we need it to be? No, but is it on the right path? Yes, but we also have an extremely, extremely low unemployment rate. Number 3 on that is reducing government spending. Of course, that goes hand in hand with balancing the budget, but reducing the government spending means cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting Medicaid, cutting programs, because of course you don't see cutting the military on this list, which is the other large expenditure. So how do you cut government spending to a large extent to balance the budget? You would have to cut or privatize Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, or all 3 of them. Number 4, unleashing American energy independence to lower energy costs. Wow, okay. We have the opportunity in America to lead the way on renewable energy. We have net exports of oil and gas. Our oil production is at the same level it was under Trump at this point. And we're acting like Joe Biden just got rid of everything. No, he didn't. In fact, he's investing in the future of our economy, investing in the future of our energy grid. Why would we not? And to answer your question, no, I'm not 100% for natural gas in the long term. I'm for natural gas in the short term to transition us to renewable energy. See, this is how you have a legitimate, reasonable conversation, because of course you can't have indefinite there's a reason why they're called natural resources, because you run out of them at some point. Now, that might not be for 10,000 years, theoretically, we don't know, right? But if you actually want to address both the limited supply, but also the climate aspect of it, because of course, I assume you believe in climate change. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you believe in climate change, methane and burning of other fossil fuels like natural gas leads to climate change directly. There is more evidence, I said this last week, there's more evidence of this than there is linkage between smoking causing lung cancer. Number 5, protecting women's sports and women's bathrooms. I find this also interesting because this is not something that is sent to, this would not be something that is sent to anybody, like anyone in his district, to be providing examples of him being a moderate. Of course, we could have the argument about women's sports. We could have the specifics being like, well, should women play football with men? Maybe if they want to, maybe if they're qualified to. Should what people say trans women, but I'm sure some of you guys wouldn't identify them, that were born as biological males, should they compete in, I don't know, swimming or track? Maybe not. Maybe we should have the conversation and say, how do we divide up these new sports teams and sports divisions without removing the autonomy over an individual? How do we have the discussion and say, well, in chess, which is a sport, can chess players be male or female? Who cares what the gender is? Maybe. Are there certain non-contact sports where that could matter? Yeah, that could be the case. Could we have a legitimate conversation and say, how does biological sex impact sports? Yeah. But to group, let's also dissect this number 5 and say protecting women's sports and women's bathrooms. This is like 2014, 2015 social conservatism coming back to say, culture war, remember the bathroom guys? Remember the bathroom? Remember North Carolina? Remember all this stuff, the bathroom bans? Well, how are you going to... It is already illegal to have sexual assault in any situation. It is illegal to go in and, actually, in fact, in Pennsylvania, Wendy Ullman, our former state representative in the 143rd before it got redistricted, actually introduced a bill to protect women from upskirting, which is taking pictures up of women's skirts. But of course, Republicans couldn't vote for that because Wendy Ullman proposed it. Oh God, no, we can't vote for that. We don't care about women then. We only care about women when it's convenient. That's the thing. They don't care about women's rights. They don't care about women's reproductive rights. They don't care about women's autonomy. You don't want to have a genuine conversation and say, well, when and where can this actually happen? Who's going to enforce the bathroom mandates? Especially the bathrooms are not even a problem. This is why it's a manufactured outrage, and every single person that's upset about it is a whiny little baby. I'm sorry. We can have the conversation about sports, but the bathroom discussion is just embarrassing. Don't forget, Connor, to also keep in mind how I can't even say that right now. You may have missed the part where I said I'm extremely brain fogged right now, but are now realizing El Nino and La Nina have profound effects on how weather happens yearly. I'm sure climate change is also a factor. Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, I'm not telling you that every single thing that is caused in the climate is because of climate change, but there is more science backing that climate change is man-made, partially at least, because we all know that the climate is changing, right? I think we can all agree to that. There are more intense winters. There are more intense summers. The heat on the overall of the planet is increasing. There are people showing glaciers melting, mountain caps melting. I mean, like, we don't need to be questioning some of this stuff. Like, we can see it with our own eyes. Yes, winters can be more harsh, but it is climate change that is partially man-made. At least partially man-made. Number 6, supporting parental rights in education. Of course, the Central Bucks School Board is a shit show because of people like Brian Fitzpatrick and his supporters. Will, I don't have an electric car because I can't afford an electric car yet because they haven't been subsidized enough to actually be affordable for people that are middle class. So while you want to own me, I would love to have an electric car. I have a used car that my dad gave me. Like, cool. I would love to have solar panels. I'd love to have geothermal energy. I would love to have all that stuff. It's in fact, just so we understand, I would die to have all this stuff because I know then that I'm not like, it's not hypocritical because I don't have control over something. I cannot control the energy grid. Oh, yes. Total white privilege. And you know what? I'll acknowledge that. Of course, I am also going to acknowledge the fact that I'm the first in my entire family to go to college and get a degree because of the hard work of my dad, who is in a union, support your local union, and my mom, who's now a realtor, but she raised us. So it's almost like they had the option to live the American dream, which I want for everybody, and you guys don't. Number 7, standing with law enforcement. Okay, I don't know what that specific bill is, defund cities and that defund the police act of 2023. I don't know what that act does. Okay, maybe it's a good bill. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Number 8, combating the opioid and fentanyl crisis. We agree on that. I don't know what that specific bill is, again, because a lot of the bills that Fitzpatrick proposes don't pass, but this one passed, as he says, the House of Representatives on May 25th. Doesn't mean that it actually got signed into law. Number 9, standing for life. Of course, we want to rip bodily autonomy and force women to be pregnant. Number 10, ensuring protection of religious liberties and free speech, which theoretically we should also all agree on because that's the First Amendment, but that isn't if I had to guess, it's probably not what this bill is. Because, of course, you don't need an ensuring protections of religious liberties and free speech act if you have the First Amendment, which last I checked we do. Number 11, addressing the weaponization of the federal government. Former FBI agent Brian Fitzpatrick is talking about the weaponization of the federal government. Do we want to talk about the civil rights leaders that were assassinated? Or do we want to claim that there was this bogus weaponization of the federal government that incited, that coerced and pressured right-wingers to attack the Capitol? Maybe not. I don't know. And of course, number 12, ending the COVID-19 public health emergency. I said this as I had to test myself twice before I came on the air because I thought I might have COVID. So this is like, oh, cool. Wonderful, man. But of course, this is from Brian Fitzpatrick, member of Congress, paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives. Interesting of note, this is not to me. I did not receive this. I am a constituent of Brian Fitzpatrick. I know a few people that are in my ancillary region that are constituents of Brian Fitzpatrick because every single person that lives in Bucks County is a constituent of Brian Fitzpatrick, and not everybody received this. So, of course, this sending all this list that a lot of these things, maybe some of them we agree on, like the opioid crisis, we agree on that for sure. We can agree on certain things, but Brian Fitzpatrick is sending this as a campaign mailer because he's running, one, in a primary against an ultra right-winger, which I'm sure we will talk about on the upcoming weeks, and two, he's going to have to run against Ashley Ehas again, she is not radical whatsoever on any of these things. She is the most moderate Democrat you could probably find in many ways, and she has a chance to beat him. So he, of course, is going to use official funds to send out a campaign mailer, which is absolutely ridiculous and it is technically illegal. But, of course, you guys don't want to look into corruption or use of illegal funds or any of that stuff when it's inconvenient. Just when it's Joe Biden doing something that there's no evidence of, which, of course, we actually have evidence of this. But who cares about that? Building off of that, I'm not going to go too into this, because we're almost an hour already into the show. I watched the entirety of last night's Central Bucks School Board meeting. And the fact that the president of the school board, as well as the rest of the school board majority, I don't care. I'm just going to say this. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. The overwhelming majority of people doing this last night were Republicans, including Paul Martino, who I have invited on the show. Campaigning, stumping for people for school board. Like, look, I know who I'm voting for. I will talk to you about that. I will have the candidates on. The fact is that you should not be able to utilize your the public comment to campaign for, because you used to not be able to. You used to not be able to use that. And of course, you're supposed to use public comment for things that are on the agenda. There was easily something to talk about last night with the passing of a potential redistricting map for the elections of school board members. But no, we had, I think, one public comment regarding that. One. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party, or anything outside of those. Public comment in a public meeting should not be used for people that, one, don't live in the district, two, aren't saying anything relevant about the agenda. I'm sorry. If it's just some pontification, go start a podcast like this, and you can have a few people listen to it. You can, like, oh man, I don't have that many people listening to me. Woohoo. But at least I'm not using public time wasting just to crap on political opponents. Because guess what? I could do that. I have every right to. Because you know what, Will? I'm sorry. I'm 27. I don't have any kids. I don't have to have kids to care about the school board because, one, I went to the schools myself. Two, my brother just graduated last year. And three, I'm a taxpayer. So I have every single right, the same way that you would have wherever you live, to go and voice your opinion. Yeah, I wish I love Central Bucks schools. I went to them. I'm trying to protect them from the people that are inflicting damage upon them. But I just cannot stand the fact that they're going to continue letting people act all the time. I go to school in Philadelphia, my man. But they're utilizing public time, public dollars, wasting time campaigning on there, including Paul Martino and co. The same people. It's the same freaking people every single week. Like, get another hobby. Start a podcast. Come on this podcast. We'll talk. But no. You have to LARP and act like you're a real tough guy in public comment. And of course, again, I've offered platforms to people and they don't come on. So, can only do so much. Last today, Project 2025. This was brought up to me by, as I said, Mashi in the Discord server. Project 2025 is the Presidential Transition Project, which is in coordination, of course, with the Heritage Foundation, which, of course, is funded by the last surviving Koch brother, because one of them is no longer around, but they were both funders of the Heritage Foundation, also America for Prosperity. Yeah. I would love to know what my lies are in the chat. I'm curious. So, the pillars of Project 2025 policy agenda. Building on a legacy of mandate for leadership, this comprehensive policy guide for the incoming presidential administration will offer specific proposals for every major issue facing the country, pulling from the expertise of the entire conservative movement. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's a book. And there's all of these different outlines. Oh, how to talk about the Department of Education. Oh, let me guess. They're going to get rid of it. Let me guess. They're going to get rid of the IRS. This is the real crux of all this, is that each one of these things. Oh, here's something that you guys can chew into. The Department of Education. Like, what does this say? Effectively, this is a long ass paper to say we're gonna get rid of the federal Department of Education. I mean, advancing education freedom. What does that mean? Oh, that means taking public dollars and putting into private schools. Providing education choice for federal children, for quote, federal children. Again, taking children that would go to public schools, removing the money that goes to the public school, giving it to a charter school, which then could be a private religious school, and funding that instead, using taxpayer money to, of course, fund religious schools. That is the goal. Restoring state and local control over education funding. Oh, wait. My understanding that most schools are funded by that real estate taxes, and those who that aren't chose to do that. Almost like if there is an example for not, like, oh, you want to get rid of real estate taxes funding schools? All right, let's do that. Let's figure out a way to do that. But of course, it's not the point. That is not the point. They just want to cut taxes. Treating taxpayers like investors in federal student aid. What? Investors? It's almost like maybe we should just be investing in the education of people rather than saying we need to have a return on it. Because that's not the point. The point of the return is to say we're creating a well-educated populace that is functional and productive in the society that we live in. But no, of course, that's not a real investment. We actually need to make interest on these people. Come on. Protecting the federal student loan portfolio from predatory politicians. Oh no. You mean like forgiving student loans? Safeguarding civil rights. Oh man. Proper understanding of those laws, rejecting gender ideology and critical race theory. Of course, critical race theory not being actually implemented in schools, but, stopping executive overreach. I mean, this is the thing. Project 2025, boiled down simply, because I obviously don't have enough time to go through every single point. Nor do I have the patience to do it after using so much of the time today going over on other things. But it is a gigantic platform that is... Thanks, Will. I'm so far left, man. So far left. It's actually crazy. It's like almost like building a consensus with people. Who would want to do that? Building policies that want to actually create good outcomes for society. Who would want to do that, man? No. The Heritage Foundation's got it all figured out. The country is with me, my friend. The country is. I promise you that. This is a Christian nationalist movement. And, that might be extreme, Connor. You can't say that. No. I mean, that's quite literally the intent here. The intent is to get Trump or whoever into power. And if Trump is the one that gets into power, he's going to continue to erode the standing of our democracy, our respect in the world. But we can just, what is it? It's not Project. So it's Project 2025. And what is the, what is it called? Agenda 47? Is that what it's called? Please tell me that that's right. Yes, it is. That's it. Good. That's a good first guess, right? They're hand in hand. Agenda 47, 10 principles for great schools leading to great jobs. It's the same thing. For Agenda 47, America must have the first, number one lowest cost energy and electricity on Earth. ending the nightmare on the homeless. Of course, like, can we just acknowledge the fact that what is the ending the nightmare of the homeless? Like, what does Trump want to do? Can anybody that doesn't know, because I know what this is going to say, can anyone take a guess in chat without Googling it, what Trump wants to do about the homeless problem? Does he, A, want to create more housing? B, give them vouchers to go into housing? Or C, move them out into the desert into a camp? Well, let's take a look. Our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares. Surrender to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerous deranged. We're making the many suffer for the whims of the deeply unwell few. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Veterans are being treated horribly. Let's see where it... No. I have to be honest, I'm sorry that I don't have this pulled up, because I wasn't planning on talking about Agenda 47, but it goes hand in hand with Project 2025. Okay. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong, with the goal of reintegrating them back into society once they are well enough to manage. It's a tough task, a very tough task. What's taking place in the streets, what's taking place when they're taking so much drugs, but the fact is we're gonna try. It's legitimately concerning. What Trump wants to do on these things. Let me see. Is this a video? Oh, that's so loud.
Have you checked your tires? eBay
That is
Motors
way
has
too
millions
loud.
of new tires from all the big brands at really good prices. And they'll
I don't know why that's so loud, but there's an ad. Once it goes away, we will listen to what this video says. I apologize for that being extremely loud.
Livable, unsanitary nightmares surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. We're making many suffer for the whims of a deeply unwell few, and they are unwell indeed. The homeless have no right to turn every park and
So, not every homeless person, by the way, suffers from mental illness. Not every homeless person is addicted to drugs. Some homeless people that are suffering from the lack of a home, are just that. They're suffering from poverty.
sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street in a beautiful city, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much.
Once
over the
beautiful,
last-
they've changed so much. Of course, remember that crime was much higher just 25 years ago in the 90s. Almost every single city across the country.
Years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets.
Okay.
We want to take care of them, but they have to be
You want
off
to take
our
care of
streets.
them?
There is nothing
What do you want to do with them?
passionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need professionals to help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America.
Let me quickly just say, the fact that every time one of the right-wing people says this, they actually don't mean that. Because you know what? I'll take that trade. You want to help every... I will... Let's up the ante. Not just every veteran. Veteran should be a guarantee. Of course, I think... You guys can call me radical, but I actually think that we should take care of every veteran, regardless if they're homeless or not, regardless if they're suffering from food insecurity or not, We should give them healthcare, housing, food, basic necessities of life, because they potentially made the ultimate sacrifice. They may have gotten injured in combat. They put their life on the line for this country. Now, call me radical, call me this progressive patriot. Oh my God, who could possibly believe in that? But I also think that certain basic necessities for people should be covered. And if you want to argue that, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't give people permanent housing, okay, let's hash it out. Let's figure a way out of this. Let's talk about real discussions here, rather than just being like, we have to help them, but we only can use the money that would be going to Ukraine, because of course we have to back out of Ukraine to get the money, even though we don't, but we have to get out of Ukraine, so I have to talk about homeless veterans. Makes total sense.
Our veterans are being treated horribly.
Our veterans are treated horribly. You're right. We should do something about that.
With all of the money we will save by ending mass unskilled migration, we will have a huge dividend to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible.
Ban it.
Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that.
Then what?
But we'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified.
Oh, like
But
we're gonna take people. You're gonna concentrate them in a certain area. You're gonna relocate them whether they want to or not. You're not gonna provide them housing necessarily. You're just gonna make tent cities elsewhere that are out of sight, where they concentrate people. Is that really where we want to go with this? Is that really? Like, this is what, like, if I just said that, right? This is why I wanted to find the specific quote. I didn't have it ready to go. But, like, if I just said that, my friends in the chat wouldn't believe me. They'd say, that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. Oh, no, but, like, he quite literally just said that. And, no, I agree with you. We shouldn't have people living on the street. But the option to move them into a tent city somewhere else, where they all are concentrated in, like, I truly hope I don't have to draw the lines there for you. We have actual solutions. 1, creating more housing. 2, increasing funding for vouchers. 3, providing job training. 4, providing mental health support. Like, 5, providing universal health care services. Will, my friend, I serve on the board of a housing institution, a nonprofit that literally provides housing for people that are homeless. It is a nonprofit organization. I'm sorry that might trigger you.
open up our cities again, make them livable, and make them beautiful. For those who are just temporarily down on their luck, we will work to help them quickly reintegrate into a normal life. For those who have,
I thought restorative justice was just for the liberal sissies.
Addictions, substance abuse, and common mental health problems, we will get them into treatment. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong.
Oh.
With the goal of reintegrating them back into society once they are well enough to manage. It's a tough task, a very tough task.
Super tough.
What's taken place on the streets, what's taken place with their taking so much drugs.
So much drugs.
The fact is, we're going to try. This strategy will be far better and also far less expensive than spending vast sums of taxpayer money to house
Ukraine
the homeless in luxury hotels without addressing their underlying issues. And they have so many of these underlying issues and needs.
Yeah, he's right. Putting them in a tent city in the middle of nowhere, would be cheaper. He's onto something there, right? Of course, completely ignoring humanity of people, completely ignoring root causes. But of course, yeah, no, just move them, right? Makes sense. Makes total sense, right? I mean, the fact that we're not even debating that he said that should be telling. No, Mickey, you're wrong. I'm sorry. People want to be integrated into society. In fact, many people that I can tell you this, we've seen it. There are people that are homeless. There are some people that, yes, they need mental support. They need health care services that they are provided with, and maybe they need for the rest of their life. There are people out there that are like that. But people that are homeless are people. They want to be a part of society. They want to be a productive member of society. They want to have jobs. They want to have families. They want to live the American dream. I'm sorry. The fact that maybe you guys haven't engaged with it, or you want to run with the ad hominem about it, or the stereotype, you can do that. That's not me. That's not most of these people watching this video or engaging with this topic, because we actually believe that people want to. I'm sorry, you guys aren't right. You're not right. I'm sorry. If you think that every single homeless person is a grifter, then I'm sorry, you got to check yourself in the mirror. My friends, like, if you think that every single homeless person's a grifter, then you might have to check on your prejudices against people. We work with people. I mean, Lindsay works with people directly. I work with them indirectly, but in combination, specifically working with food distributions. So I don't necessarily see so many people. But we help these people. And yes, we are. I know I'm triggered. I'm not sweating, by the way. This is just my glisten. This is my natural shine. In saying that, like, if you think that the average person that is homeless chooses to be homeless, you don't really understand the situation that people live in. In fact, I mean, like, if you guys, many folks want to argue and talk about the fact that people live paycheck to paycheck, and I agree. The 50% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That's just a fact. Get this idiot off my screen. 50% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. If you guys cared about them, like, you know, the average Joe, the blue-collar worker, 2 kids and a wife, trying to make it in America. Well, I'm sorry. The people that fall through the cracks are not, it is not just an individual's choice or even an individual's fault. It might be, in occasions, anecdotally, you might have people that are ripping people off or whatever. Yes, I go to school in Philadelphia. I see people every single time I'm there that are sitting on the street. They're not asking for money. They're not trying to rip me off. They're not coming at me to be violent. They're sitting on the street because they have nowhere else to be. That is the total disconnect with many of you guys. So, I'm sorry. And if you want to make fun of it, I mean, so be it. That's your choice. That's your prerogative. Now, you can't be a good Christian and then say, oh, the homeless people, fuck them. Because, of course, that's what Jesus would say. You can't possibly connect those two. You cannot possibly make the connection that you should just let people starve, let people be homeless, let people have no health care, because not give people training for jobs. Of course, when they get the jobs, you don't want to pay them. You want to make them slaves or like next to slaves working $7.25 an hour. Because you don't care. Because if you did, you'd be outraged about a former president, someone that's running for president, trying to move homeless people into a concentration camp. That should bother you. He didn't even, he's couching it slightly. He is saying we're going to take them. It's like Patrick from SpongeBob. We're just going to take them here and we're going to move them over there. It's just unfortunate. And I would have assumed that whether you're a conservative, progressive, centrist, anywhere in between, you would care enough to take care of homeless people in the way that we could. And of course, even LARPing about veterans is just totally ignored. Because you guys don't actually care about them either. When the most progressive senator comes together with one of the most conservative senators, Bernie Sanders coming together with, I forget exactly who it was off the top of my head, to expand Veterans Affairs coverage for people, nobody talks about that. Nobody cares. Nobody's like touting that. Except I actually believe that was one of the best ways of showing bipartisanship. But no, of course not. Because you only care about veterans the same way that you only care about women when it's convenient. I serve on 2 boards of directors to help people with needs of mental illness, homelessness, and food insecurity. At least I'm trying to help the problem. Oh, man. Fun times we're living in. I wouldn't have thought that we'd have to push back on Republicans, specifically Trump, trying to literally round up people and put them into a camp. I mean, yeah, it was super roughy for me, Will. Love getting roughy. Yeah, I mean, it's fine for me to pontificate and like give my opinion on this stuff. I have no problem sharing it, and I have no problem being out front facing with it. It's not that hard to do. I mean, my capstone project is literally going to be working on providing food for people for free, no questions asked. I mean, that's the type of work we're doing. It's not to just be like, oh, I don't like Ukraine war, so let's talk about veterans so we can stop talking about Ukraine and not maybe give them money, because the money should be going here, but we're not going to give that money to them, because we would never give that money to them. The same way. Even though you personally would benefit, if you actually dug into some of these policies, my friends, you would actually benefit. I guess that's besides the point. You don't care. So, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching and your engagement. If you guys like the program, or if you hate the program for that matter, you can hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. You can listen to the show pretty much anywhere podcasts are available. And then you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Greater Society Media. You can support the show for as little as $3 a month on patreon.com/Greater Society Media. And you can follow me on X, or whatever the hell it's called nowadays, at Connor OHanlon. And if my right-wing friends really wanted to, or if you wanted to, not as a right-winger, maybe as a sane person, you can join the Discord server, and you can talk about what matters most to you, and provide show suggestions, guest suggestions, hop in the chat. You can do all that stuff. But until next time, stay safe. Don't get dropped on your head like Will. And I'll see you next time. Peace.